Hi everyone, welcome back to ToyinTube. As you can see, I'm talking from inside my car, and that's because I have been, how should I put it now, I've been bullied by members of my own household. And the leader of the pack actually is not more than like, I don't know how many inches, 20 something inches tall. And he's only 26 and a half months. But he has taken over my space, my sanctuary, my own personal space. He's taken over. So I like to choose my battles very wisely. So today I've given up my space. He can have it. 1 minute silence, in honor of my lost freedom. Actually, that was like, 3 seconds, but I'll take it. Today I'm going to be talking about abuse, and in particular domestic abuse. All right, so before I really go into the topic, I just wanted to share with us something that I witnessed. I don't know whether to call it witness, but I guess if I heard it, then I'm a witness. Something that I witnessed during this lockdown period. So what happened is I'm a night owl, yeah, I sleep quite late. And on this particular night, around maybe 3 a.m., I was just rounding up my last movie for the night on Netflix. And I started to hear noises. The movie I was watching wasn't a violent movie, so I was like, where's all this coming from? Like people were fighting or having a row or something like that. So I turned the TV down, then I listened. I didn't hear anything anymore. Then I carried on watching my movie. Then some minutes later it started again, but this time around it was really loud. The noises were really loud. So I turned on the TV again. I went to the window to see maybe they were on the street, wherever it was coming from, if somebody needed help, if I could call the police for someone, my nosy self. Anyway, so it was a woman's voice I was hearing this time, and she was crying. She was really sad. She was saying in Yoruba language, for people who know Yoruba, she said, God will judge you. God will judge you. You maltreated me. You beat me up. You beat me up even with my child. You beat me up because of your phone. Now you found your phone. You beat me up. You locked me outside. You chased me out of the house. You locked me outside. God is going to judge you. God is going to judge you. And then at that time when she was saying God is going to judge you, all of a sudden a light came up. Then I could see where the noise was coming from. So a light came on from inside a particular house. Then I could see her silhouette outside the door. The man had opened the door from the inside and allowed her in. And even as she was going in, she still kept on shouting, God is going to judge you. God is going to judge you, blah, blah, blah. And then I was just like, wow. So this man actually beat this woman because he couldn't find his phone. And he ended up finding it after he chased her out of the house. He found it wherever he left it, according to her, because she was saying, for the benefit of those of us who were listening, she was actually saying these things while she was very agitated and crying and all that. So and I was really sad for her. I was like, you beat your wife up with a child strapped to her back, all because you couldn't find your phone. Like the sort of things that some men do sometimes, I don't get it. She's the mother of your child. Why would you do that? She's not a slave. I don't understand. Like, it doesn't really matter what the issue is. Why do people perpetrate domestic violence? Why? I know that we can go on and on about the reasons behind domestic violence. We can try to excuse it away. We can try to psychologically evaluate the reasons behind it. But I feel like, no, if you're not ready to really handle issues like an adult, there's really no point going into a relationship. There's really no point going into a marriage. This woman, she's had your children for you. She's even strapping one to her back. I think it must have been a few months old baby. I don't know how many months old. And you're beating her up. Like, this is, I don't know, this is barbaric. This is an unacceptable behavior. I know that there's a lot of help out there for both people who perpetrate domestic violence and the victims. Wherever you have human beings, there will always be problems. There will always be confrontations. There will be rows. There will be fights. But what really makes the difference between an animal, and a level-headed human being is how you manage situations, how you manage conflicts. When issues arise, how do you manage it before it escalates into a very sour situation. Anyways, that was what I witnessed that day, which kind of made me want to talk about domestic violence. There's loads of domestic violence victims on a daily basis. We know also, according to statistics, that men are the most perpetrators of domestic violence, but that doesn't discount the fact that there are some women who also are domestic violence perpetrators. So domestic violence can come from anyone to anyone, so long as you're within the same like household or you have sort of relationship. At the beginning of the lockdown, there were people on the news talking about how mental health issues will go up, domestic violence will increase as a result of the lockdown, and people having to spend more time with each other under the same roof. And I think we kind of understand the reasons behind it, because normally we have these issues. They were present before the pandemic, but also imagine all the issues that the pandemic brought about. The pandemic brought about a lot of loss of earnings for a lot of people who had businesses lost their businesses that have been around for years. They started to pack up. People who were employees, obviously they lost their jobs. Not everyone, but I mean like fractions of these people, but it was a lot, to be honest. A lot of businesses went down. A lot of employees lost their jobs. Those who didn't lose their jobs, they were furloughed by the government. People who were self-employed as well had no more means of income. These sort of issues would make people want to react negatively, because it's like a lot of things coming at you at once. So all of these things put a strain on people's relationships. People are getting crankier than normal with each other. Relationships are just really sparking off at the slightest provocations and all of that. So, but I'm not saying that should excuse people who perpetrate domestic violence, but there should be ways to manage things without them escalating to having to go at each other physically. It's just not. It's not acceptable. So I have a few things I wanted to just share. I got this off the domestic abuse helpline page. We already know that lockdown brings about increase in domestic violence cases globally. Also, it says 3 women a week killed by domestic violence during the lockdown. All right. So according to domestic violence helpline, there was a 49% increase in calls in the first 4 weeks, and in these first 4 weeks, 14 women in the UK were shot, stabbed, bitten, or burned to death. I have no idea. These are really like grievous things. I have no idea why anyone would want to be doing this to women, or in fact, forget women. Why would anyone want to do this to anyone, irrespective of the issue that you're all facing? Like, if you feel like things are getting really hot, why don't you just walk away? Just take a walk, take a breather. Go for a walk, come back, and hopefully things have settled down and you can take it from there. So I don't really understand how it's so difficult for people to just manage tension situations. Also, the domestic abuse helpline, they also recorded that the visits to the website during this lockdown has tripled in that period, which is again fair. Tens of thousands of women nationwide are living in terror of physical and mental abuse, more so because their partners that have been furloughed they're now closely stuck together under the same roof. First of all, if things were good between you and your partner, obviously it's a good thing to have them in lockdown. You're together. This is someone you don't normally see enough during the week. So the lockdown, actually, I believe it must have had its own positives as well. So people who don't normally spend enough time together, couples who work all the time, they probably would enjoy this moment more. Some couples get on really well. Some put up appearances so it looks like they're getting on, but that's only because they're avoiding each other. So maybe they work all the time. Husband probably works 12-hour shifts, wife works all day all night. Things might not be so great between them, but at least the fact that they don't see each other enough, they're able to avoid conflicts every now and again. Then we have the other type of couples where they live together, they see each other every evening after work or whatever, but things are just not great. They're always like having a row over the most stupid things, like the silliest things just spark them off and all of that. So imagine when the pandemic started and everyone had to stay home because of the lockdown. So couples, like the last 2 couples that I mentioned, the ones that are usually away from each other and they don't see each other that often during the week because of work. And the ones that see each other every day, whenever issues arise during this pandemic period, it will escalate quickly if they don't manage it properly, because now they're having to face issues because they're present in the house 24/7 as a result of the lockdown. So I think from that angle, we can see the reasons why domestic violence issues and every other type of relationship issues will spike. Again, when we talk about domestic violence, it's not only between men and women. There's domestic violence between parents and children as well, which we must also acknowledge. I don't think we acknowledge that enough, and I'm not going to talk about that in this video. It might be something I will visit in another video if I'm up to it. But again, talking about domestic violence between adults in terms of men, women, men, women. Domestic violence is something that is really pervasive in our society. There's a lot of people going through domestic violence that they don't even want to talk about it. They feel like if they have to report it to someone or even share it with someone, it will make their abuser more abusive towards them. It would just tick them off, and they think they're trying to just avoid any more confrontation or any more issues, or making what's on ground worse than it is. And I don't think anyone should feel like that. You shouldn't feel hopeless. There's help out there. We need to let people understand that if you're going through this sort of abuse, you need to speak out. There is support for you, and it's not easy to talk about, which I quite understand. I must also acknowledge that there are times when you tell someone to seek help and they wouldn't listen to you. I feel like in those sort of situations, you cannot really do much to help a person until they have that conviction within themselves to seek help. I've been in such situations where I try to speak to some friends, and I've been speaking to them about the effects of their abusive relationships on them over the years. And I've tried to say, you know what, you need to seek help. You need external help. You need someone. If you know you don't want to leave him, fine, but both of you need to seek help. But these people would not normally want to talk about it to any external bodies or any external agencies that can help them, because they feel like, oh, I don't want to put my problems out there, or I don't want him to get more aggressive with me because I spoke out. No one should be made to feel like this. On safelives.org.uk website, something I saw there that caught my eye is characteristics of victims that mean that they are more likely to be abused. So number one is gender. Women are more likely to be abused than men. They're more likely to be victims of abuse than men. So also 95% of those going to MARAC or accessing their services are women. MARAC is an agency that helps with domestic violence. I can't really remember the full meaning of MARAC now. Also, another characteristics of such people is low income. So women in households with an income of less than £10,000 are 3.5 times more at risk than those in households with income of over £20,000. Age also, younger people are more likely to be subjected to interpersonal violence, and the majority of high-risk victims are in their 20s and in their 30s. Nearly 1 in 3 women who suffer from domestic abuse during their lifetime report that the first incident of violence happened whilst they were pregnant. Separation also is another characteristic. Previous criminality of the perpetrator. So if the perpetrator is a known criminal, it doesn't really matter if their previous crimes have anything to do with domestic violence. So long as they have a previous record, there's more likelihood that they will be a perpetrator of domestic abuse. Drug and alcohol abuse. So victims of abuse have a higher rate of drug or alcohol misuse, and whether it starts before or after the abuse doesn't really matter, but at least 20% of high-risk victims of abuse report using drugs or alcohol. So when people go through these things, they tend to fall back on alcohol and drug use just to give them that respite from their problems. Then the last one is mental health issues. So 40% of high-risk victims of abuse report mental health issues. So another thing that just caught my eye now is this. It says each year more than 100,000 people in the UK are at imminent risk of being murdered or seriously injured as a result of domestic violence. But we must never give up hope. We must always keep, trying to support people who need it. There's a lot of people going through stuff now that we don't know. That next person you're speaking to, that colleague you see smiling every day, you don't know what they're going through. That church member, that you see always so diligent in church, or maybe you don't even see them often. You don't know the reason why they're not in church. You don't know the reason why a colleague at uni is missing uni so much. You don't know this. They could be going through domestic violence. They could be going through any of this, even other abuse categories. Now, talking about abuse categories, I know that today I just really want to talk about domestic violence, but just before I round up, I just wanted to mention the other types of abuse that we have. We have physical abuse, we have sexual abuse, psychological or emotional abuse, financial or material abuse. We have modern slavery. All right, and then we have discriminatory abuse and institutional abuse. It's just sad. Why us human beings, why do we like to dominate each other? Why do we like to subject one another to pain, to misery? It's not nice. My last few words for today is let us be vigilant. Let us be mindful of the people around us, even though sometimes it may seem like they're not asking for help, but the signs might be there. Let's just be very aware of our surroundings, of the people around us, of the people in our lives who might need our help, but they themselves are not able, or they're not courageous enough to reach out for the help. All right, so I hope that in the future I'll be able to explore some other aspects of abuse. Hopefully I will see you guys in my next video. Please click on subscribe link and subscribe to my channel. And yes, there will be more videos coming up on different topics, like I said before. In the meantime, have a nice evening, have a nice night wherever you are in the world. Have a nice morning, enjoy your day, and take care. See you next time. Bye.